Module Overview. This foundational module introduces you to the expansive and multidimensional field of sculpture and 3D art, tracing its definitions, core characteristics, historical significance, categories, materials, and expressive capacity. As an evolving discipline situated at the intersection of art, craft, technology, and culture, sculpture represents one of the oldest and most influential forms of human communication, physically manifesting thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and power structures into tangible forms that occupy space and affect environments. Unlike two-dimensional forms such as painting and photography, sculpture exists within three-dimensional space height, width, and depth, and invites viewers to experience it from multiple angles, perspectives, and distances. This spatiality, materiality, and tactile presence distinguishes sculpture from all other art forms. Through this module, you will acquire a conceptual framework to understand how sculptural forms are conceived, developed, and contextualized within artistic, societal, and technological dimensions. Emphasis is placed on understanding key sculptural terminologies, recognizing the diversity of styles and categories, and analyzing the functions of sculpture across time and civilizations. Learning objectives. By the end of this module, you will be able to define the term sculpture and differentiate it from other art forms. Identify and explain the core elements and dimensions of 3D art. Classify the major types and categories of sculpture. Recognize and describe the historical and cultural importance of sculptural works. Understand the role of space, mass, and volume in sculptural composition. Analyze the emotional and symbolic power of sculptural form and presence. Trace early examples of sculpture in prehistory and ancient civilizations. Describe the social, religious, and functional roles of sculpture. Understand the foundational vocabulary and concepts used in 3D art practice. Key concepts and themes, definition and scope of sculpture. Sculpture as the art of forming three-dimensional works by shaping or combining materials. A form of visual art that is both tactile and spatial, engages both artistic creativity and structural understanding. Mediums may include stone, wood, metal, clay, resin, glass, found objects, or digital renderings. Elements and visual language. Form. The shape or configuration of an object. Mass. The perceived weight or density of the sculpture. Volume. The enclosed space within a form. Texture. The surface feels smooth, rough, jagged, etc. Scale. The size of a sculpture in relation to the human body or its environment. Space. Positive, occupied, versus negative, empty space. Balance, symmetrical, asymmetrical, or radial distribution of visual weight. Historical origins. Prehistoric sculpture, Venus of Willendorf, 28,000 to 25,000 BCE, fertility and ritual forms. Ancient Egypt, monumental stone carving for tombs and gods. Mesopotamia, Greece, China, India, and Mesoamerica. Ritual, political, and decorative uses of sculpture. African and Oceanic cultures. Spiritual figures, totems, ancestral forms. The transition from symbolic and spiritual to representational and expressive art. Classifications of sculpture. Freestanding in the round, meant to be viewed from all sides, e.g. statues, figurines. Relief sculpture, projected from a background, e.g. bas relief, high relief on walls. Kinetic sculpture includes motion, e.g. mobiles by Alexander Calder. Installation sculpture, large-scale, environmental, immersive works. Architectural sculpture, integrated with buildings or structural features. Digital or virtual sculpture, 3D modeling in software or augmented reality platforms. Functions of sculpture, religious spiritual, deities, altars, tombs, shrines, political, commemorative statues, war memorials, monuments, decorative, enhancing architecture or interior spaces, symbolic, conceptual, representing abstract ideas or cultural beliefs, functional, ceremonial objects, tools, or artifacts with practical use. Social commentary, used to challenge norms or provoke dialogue. Communication in bedside settings. Clear and compassionate communication is a cornerstone of bedside care. This includes using calm, respectful tone and body language, listening to patient fears, discomforts, or questions, explaining each procedure before performing it, avoiding medical jargon with patients and families, documenting care accurately and reporting changes promptly. Communication should also be culturally sensitive, inclusive, and trauma-informed. Form versus function in 3D art. Debates between aesthetic beauty and utilitarian value. Western formalism versus indigenous functional aesthetics. Sculpture in daily life, masks, utensils, sacred objects. Introduction to materials. Natural versus synthetic materials. Material behavior, pliability, density, durability, finish. Material as message. How material choice affects emotional or symbolic impact. Studio activity suggestions, optional. Sketch a 3D object from 3 different angles to understand form and volume. Create a paper or clay maquette of an abstract sculpture that conveys balance. Research and present 3 famous sculptures from different eras or regions.